India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is currently holding talks with his Chinese counterpart, General Li Shangfu, who is on a two-day visit to New Delhi. This is the first time the Chinese Defence Minister is visiting India since troops of India and China engaged in violent clashes in eastern Ladakh's Galwan Valley in May 2020. Those skirmishes, started by the Chinese, had left 20 Indian soldiers dead. According to India, scores of Chinese soldiers were also killed in retaliatory action by Indian troops. That episode marked a new low in the already fraught India-China relations. Now, this meeting of the two defence ministers comes after at least 19 rounds of talks between the military commanders of India and China amid the standoff in the eastern Ladakh region. General Li's visit is part of a meeting of defence ministers of SCO countries. India is the SCO chair this year. Considered close to Chinese President Xi Jinping, General Li's India visit is being seen as a significant one amid the standoff along the line of actual control. The two ministers are expected to discuss the progress of the military and diplomatic talks to resolve the standoff. Ahead of General Li's visit, the Chinese Defence Ministry, on the 18th round of Corps Commander level meeting held earlier, had said both sides had agreed to speed up settlement of relevant issues linked to the standoff in eastern Ladakh, in addition to safeguarding peace in border areas. The two ministers are also expected to discuss the border issues, including de-escalation in eastern Ladakh and violations in Arunachal Pradesh. The two countries have deployed additional troops in the forward areas, and the issue of a buffer zone strategy that both sides have agreed on is likely to come up in these talks. The two sides are also likely to discuss the ongoing disputes in Depsang and Demchok. Now, this isn't the first political engagement between India and China since Galwan. In March this year, India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar had met his Chinese counterpart Xin Gang on the sidelines of a G20 meeting in Delhi, where Jaishankar told Xin the state of India-China relations was abnormal. The Chinese Foreign Minister is also expected to be in India for the SCO Foreign Ministers meeting in Goa next month. Even though bilateral ties have been quite tense over the last 3 years, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping publicly exchanged greetings on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali in November last year. This was their first meeting since Galwan in 2020. Also in September last year, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi had come face-to-face at the annual SCO summit in Samarkand in Uzbekistan, but there was no handshake or exchange of pleasantries at the time. Now, there are multiple thorny issues that have bedeviled the India-China relationship in recent times. Since the Galwan incident, ties between the two countries have seen a steep fall thanks to continued Chinese provocations on multiple fronts. There were clashes between the troops of the two countries in Tawang along the line of actual control in December last year, resulting in injuries. Earlier this month, for the third time in 6 years, China announced Chinese names for 11 places in Arunachal Pradesh, reiterating its claim to the entire Indian state. Now, if Xi Jinping is to visit India for the SCO Leaders Summit later this year, Beijing needs to prepare the ground for his meeting with Prime Minister Modi and ensure that there are no surprises or awkward moments. Remember, in September, India will also host the G20 summit. So, what can we expect from today's meeting? Let's throw this open to our guests. Joining me on the show is Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, former diplomat, Dr. Shrikant Kondapalli, Dean of the School of International Studies at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, is also with us. And in a moment, we are hoping to be joined by I believe we already have with us Colonel Shivdan Singh, a defence expert. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. All right, Colonel Shivdan Singh, if I could start with you. These talks between Rajnath Singh, India's defence minister, and his Chinese counterpart began here in the national capital, we are told, about half an hour ago. Now, many expect that the two sides are going to discuss de-escalation in eastern Ladakh and violations in Arunachal Pradesh, deployment of additional troops by the two sides in the forward areas, and the issue of a buffer zone strategy that the two sides have already agreed on, in addition to the ongoing disputes in Depsang and Demchok. Is that something you agree with, sir? Do you believe that the talks between the two ministers are likely to cover this entire spectrum of issues between the two sides?
I would like to tell everybody that after 86, when semblance helipad incident took place, after that there have been multiple talks between India and China. And the aim of these talks was de-escalation of tension on border areas, and in 96, our Prime Minister Narasimha Rao and Chinese Prime Minister signed an agreement that confidence building measures will be there, in that the troops will patrol the border areas without weapons. But still, Chinese have violated these all confidence building measures, because of which Galwan took place and because of which Tamang sort of a mudbed took place. So I don't expect from the talks of Sri Rajnath Singh and Chinese Foreign Minister any fruitful outcome, because China is in the habit of deceiving India, which he has been doing right from 55 onwards till today. Now, foremost and most important question is, when will the boundary between Chinese occupied Tibet and India will be finalized? Till such time boundary is not finalized, McMahon line is not accepted by China, this tension de-escalation will not take place. China will always claim the Indian territories, especially Arunachal Pradesh and other disputed area in Ladakh and northeastern sector, because he is not acknowledging McMahon line or any boundary line between India and China. So first and foremost, the long, effective, peaceful measure will be that between two countries, the boundary dispute should be settled and boundary should be identified, which is the actual boundary between the two countries. So
Right.
the talks will be there. They will talk confidence building measures, but Chinese will not adhere to these confidence building measures for long.